Okay, so let's go ahead and close the poll, and let's see what you guys are looking for right now, where you're at. Let's go ahead and share that. So looks like 53% of the audience right now is managing their SEO in-house. 37% says they do some and they outsource some, which is a model that we're seeing more and more of. 5% says we're looking for a new agency. Happy to give you a call after the webinar. And then the last 5%, we're happy with our agency and or other. Okay, so that's good to know. Let's go ahead and for that 53% of the audience, hopefully this information will be helpful to you in terms of turning your current website into a conversion machine. So let's go ahead and dive right into the webinar. So my name is Mike Turner. I'm the Business Development Manager here at Web Marketing 123. Today's topic, turning your website into a revenue machine, conversion secrets you won't learn from Google Analytics. Is not the truth. You know, Google Analytics is great for kind of tracking people that come to your website, but it won't tell you, hey, dummy, your call to action's in the wrong spot, or you're not tracking conversions properly. It'll just simply tell you all the people that come to your website. And we often say, you know, the tools you have are only as good as the people using it. And oftentimes, you know, a lot of folks we talk to, a lot of Eloqua and Marketo and all these bells and whistles, and not know kind of what to do with it. So hopefully we'll be able to give the folks today attending a sense of how best to turn your website again into that conversion machine that everyone's looking for. We are a full-service digital marketing agency out of Bay Area, California, so right down the street from Pixar Media. We specialize in search engine optimization campaigns, paid search campaigns or SEM campaigns, social media campaigns, as well as running some advanced analytics, so attribution modeling. So for the folks of you that understand that, we do that as well. So let's go ahead and dive right in. Again, we were just really quickly about us, founded in 2004, about 120 clients. We work with some pretty well-known name brands out there and have been doing it for a while. So some practical matters up front. The number one question we get always, every single webinar, are the slides available? Yes, they are. Simply email seo@webmarketing123.com and we'll get them out to you. We do drink the Kool-Aid. We do our social media campaigns, and please feel free to reach out to us, hashtag webmarketing123 or facebook.com/webmarketing123. And of course, you want to learn more. We are offering a free Amazon $50 gift card for everyone who reaches out for a free SEO assessment. What does an SEO assessment mean? That means you send us the top keywords that you have not been able to get ranking for. You send us your competitors, and we'll sit down and say, okay, here's where you're getting beat. Here's the areas where you need to improve. And here's what your competitors are doing that you might not have known. And again, feel free to reach out to us, SEO@webmarketing123 for that assessment. So here's kind of the agenda that we'll go over today. We're going to define what is a conversion. You know, we're in a unique position that we talk to a lot of different marketers and at different stages of their marketing, and some they've used their website as an online brochure for years and years, and they heard about this thing called search marketing, and they reach out to us and they say, okay, you know, where do we start? And oftentimes it starts with defining things, and we'll help define, you know, what is a conversion when we say that. We'll take a look at what drives conversion, and usually it's usability. And we'll take a look at some click path studies and some visual eye chart studies to help you get a good sense and visualize what we're talking about when we talk about, you know, usability studies and A/B testing. Then we'll look at exactly the A/B testing, multivariate testing, what platforms are good to use, what is it good for. We'll then take a look at some advanced techniques in terms of tracking. You know, so we talked to a lot of folks. I try to put them in different buckets. There's those that are crawling, then there's those that are walking, and then there's those that are running. You know, some folks I talked to, I remember talking to one gentleman about 6 months ago. He said, Mike, it's costing me $120,000 to not rank on the keyword stamps in the first 3 positions on Google. He knows that because he knows his conversion rate. He knew exactly how many people were finding him prior when he was ranking in the first 3 positions on Google for the keyword stamps. So very metrics-driven individual. Whereas there are some folks we talk to and they say, I have the slightest idea of what keywords I want to get ranking for, let alone tracking them. So again, crawling, walking, and running. And we'll take a look at some advanced techniques for some of you, quote-unquote advanced folks that attend the webinars that often give us feedback. It's too general. You didn't go over enough advanced topics. So a little nugget for you folks in the 4th segment of this webinar. And then we'll take a look at measuring success and how to monitor and improve your results, and particularly for the 53% of in-house folks out there that are just plugging away at this stuff month over month. Why are we doing this? This is how many searches we see done on Google every day. From 2004 to 2012, there are 4 billion searches on Google every day. And I'm sure as marketers, we are bombarded with just a slew of reports that say everyone's shifting from traditional marketing and moving to digital. And you probably get a bunch of statistics from Marketing Sherpa and Gartner and Forrester all saying the same things. And the reason that's happening, the reason folks are shifting from trade shows to digital is because of this. And you look at how many people are conducting searches for these keywords. I saw an amazing statistic the other day on Forrester that said that 70% of the B2B buying decision is decided before they even talk to a sales rep. 70%. So that speaks volumes to the need to have content that's searchable, that shows up when people are doing searches for the keywords that make sense to your business. That's why it makes sense. So let's go ahead and dive right into defining what is a conversion. And really, it's a visitor performing a desired action on a page. So when someone finds your website, ask yourself, what is it that I want this individual to do? Am I trying to capture their information, or a lead gen, or a B2B type of model, or am I selling them something? Am I selling them a pan or cookware and more of a B2C model? So what is it that you want them to do? And that is your conversion. And oftentimes, the folks that I talk to, they don't have a clear-cut definition of what a conversion is to them. They have 7 different things that they want them to do. And we'll take a look at an example on why that's probably not the best thing to do, which is have equally weighted options to individuals. And the tendency, what we find, is for them to not do any of the things that we wanted them to do because they are bombarded with all these different offers and equally weighted options. So a conversion, we find, it can be a simple form fill out. It can be a newsletter sign up, a site registration, or, as we said, an e-commerce transaction. Or it can simply be clicking on a specific link or visiting a series of pages. Oftentimes, in other companies we work with, they have technical issues where they can't do tracking for one reason or another. They're on a third-party shopping cart, and that company won't allow me to put any HTML on that page. So a workaround might be to get event tracking in place. So tagging that link, that button, and then anyone who clicks on that link, let that be a conversion. It's not a one-to-one, that is, for a click I got $1. Rather, at least it's a next best step to say, okay, how many people are clicking on these buttons or clicking on my videos? So event tracking might be a workaround for that. So where do conversions happen? And oftentimes they happen in different places, depending upon where that individual is on that web page, or the landing page, or the splash page that they land on. It can happen at the home page. It can happen at if you're running a SEM or pay-per-click campaign, it can happen at that landing page. It can happen at a checkout page, really wherever you have that call to action button. And a key thought here is, how does your site make money? And where do you want users, what do you want users to do when they get there? It's as simple as this, as rudimentary as this sounds. It's funny. I'll ask some of these folks that take us up on that side analysis, and I'll ask them, so how do you make your money? And they say, well, we get it by people filling out a form. And I say, okay, so how do I fill out the form? Oh, well, you got to go here, and then you got to drill down here, and it's below the fold there, and then you got to go on the right-hand side, and there's the small little mail tube. That's how you contact us. And I stop right there and I say, well, it's no wonder that you don't make any money from the web. It's no wonder you're missing your goals. It's because you're making it harder for people to contact you. So again, what are the primary objectives of your website? It's a good question to ask. And oftentimes there's long-term, short-term, and functionality types of things that folks look at. For the long-term goal, it's directly tied to revenue. It's a contact form, a trial, a download, etc. From a short-term perspective, it might be a current feature or marketing campaign that you're promoting. And again, we're defining what a conversion is. And a conversion means something else to each person that we talk to. For some people, it's people picking up the phone and calling, kind of old school way. For others, it's filling out a form, and yet for others, it's simply clicking the play button on a video, and that is a conversion to them because they know, they've tracked that for every 100 click play buttons, they're able to close 1% of them. And it stands to reason if you get more people on the top of the funnel, which is people finding your website, it stands to reason, given that conversion rate, for every 1%, you're going to have more conversions. So now let's go ahead and take a look at this page. And really quickly, type in the chat function, what is wrong with this web page right now? Let's say I found them and I typed in project management software solutions, and I found this website. What is wrong with this website right now? So type in the Q&A function really quickly. What is the number one thing, in your opinion, that's wrong with this? Yeah, no call to action. That's right. So a lot of no calls to action, a lot of too much text, not enough white space. Yeah, so a lot of good feedback there. In my opinion, as I look at this landing page, what I always think of is there was a study, actually a good book out there, Don't Make Me Think, and it said that it was a study that was conducted that said that people, if you don't tell them what to do within 3 seconds or less, if it's not 100% clear, within 3 seconds or less, you've lost them. And this is especially true for people who find your website on non-branded types of keywords, like project management software. It's not like I typed in their brand name, Asta. I typed in project management software. And if you don't tell me what to do in 3 seconds or less, I'm gone. So that is actually a good exercise. After we're done with this webinar, pull up your home page, your solutions page, your PPC landing page. Is it clear within 3 seconds or less what you want me to do? If not, there's some things you have to do in order to make it easier to convert. So in looking at this, let's point out the things that stand out to me. One, there's no 100% clear call to action. It looks like they've hidden within their top navigation how to buy. So what might make a lot of sense is to have that how to buy maybe in a link right here and have it how to buy. Not submit, rather how to buy. What am I going to get? Or in this case, try our free demo. So it's 100% clear. Make it look more button-like. We find that, believe it or not, people actually prefer to click on buttons than links in terms of doing some A/B testing that we've done for our clients. So, simple how to buy or find out more or, try our free demo and then take them to that clear landing page with maybe just a couple of fields to where the bare minimum where your inside sales reps or distribution can follow up with that individual, that's kind of best practice there. But in looking at this, they have the email this page to a friend and print page. And that really isn't that doesn't really help you convert that individual, does it? Rather, we're hiding our calls to action in the actual navigation, and we're providing in my opinion, way too much information. The readers these days, internet surfers are very fickle in manner. They have a very short attention span. What I might do to better this page is maybe turn this into a couple bullet points. Keep it very simple. Still have the keywords that you're trying to get ranking for, in header tags and within the content, but simplify the text, make it very clear and concise. Maybe instead of over here, you have your call to action button with a quick testimonial as to why you versus your competition. Speaking to that individual that is just in the very shoes that this individual was that you helped solve. So we find that that actually helps with conversion, having that testimonial right next to that call to action button. Okay, let's press on. So we've defined what conversion is. Now let's go ahead and take a look at what drives conversion or some usability best practices. And what we find is, effective use of white space. So that previous example, there was hardly any white space, a bunch of text, very difficult to find out what you wanted me to do. So size and position should be relative to the importance of the object. So here we have a larger object, and we have that a bit of text down here, and maybe a call to action button. We find that this model performs fairly well when we're redesigning web pages and doing some A/B testing. So assigning visual priority, and it might make sense to even change the color of that call to action button. And there's some studies that I looked at that said that green buttons versus red convert better for a certain target demographic. But you don't have that information unless you're physically doing that A/B testing and figuring out, all right, where do I have my call to action button? How am I placing it on the web page? And what we find is that you want to consider the visitor's eye path. What will users notice and in what order? And there have been some pretty groundbreaking eye tracking studies done recently and over the years. And what we find is that when people read web pages or web content, they do it in a F or Z shape. So in this case, you're reading the content, you're kind of perusing it, and you see where the kind of the majority of that attention. So they put subjects and they put on these goggles and it tracked where the eye stayed and for how long. And the areas of red are kind of the most concentrated areas where that individual looked at that segment for the longest amount of time. So notice here that they're reading heavy text. They're in that text area, but less so on the navigation over here. But also notice this is actually pretty cool. They look at the first few links within that navigation. And what we find that's also true for top navigation as well. So one question you might ask yourself is, within your navigation, is your most important areas that you want to drive people to within the first few links, or are they buried way down here where people's eyes simply don't go? So that's another thing to look at as you look at your web pages. Similarly over here, they're looking at this kind of widget thing heavily, and then when they read the text, they also look at the navigation over here on the left-hand side. But notice in this case, they're not looking at those first few links because, again, the space and where you lay out the physical text, in this case, it's very disjointed. So you've got to be careful on how you lay out your web pages and where you put your most prominent links. And the last one here isn't too surprising. This is actually a look at where individuals focus on that search engine results page. And here what we're saying is the majority of people are looking at those first three positions. And in this case, the paid listings are not in the first three as Google's starting to roll out more and more now. Rather, the paid listings are on the right-hand side. And it looks like they're looking at that a little bit too. But just so we're clear, what we tend to see in the way of click-through rate from a pay-per-click versus organic side, in general, is roughly 88% click-through rate on organic listings and a 12% click-through rate for the paid listings. In general, that's what we tend to see. And there's a time and place to run both an SEO campaign and a paid site. But now it should give you a good sense. And put yourself in your, think about how you do your searches. Oftentimes, you don't trust those paid listings for one reason or another. Because if you had to pay to be there, why doesn't Google find you, naturally relevant for that term? So let me just click on this organic one. But kind of on average, what we tend to see, even within this 88% click-through rate on the organic side, is within the first 3 positions organically, 20% of that click-through rate is going to go within the first 3 positions on the organic side. So even within that 88%, fully 20% of that is going to go within the first 3 positions organically. So I can spend an entire webinar on just click-through rate and what we see on organic versus paid, but hopefully that gives folks a good sense of kind of how people scan websites and where place their call to actions is important. So in terms of usability, best practices, again, that Z shape, how people kind of scan things. So they start with the logo, they'll go through the links, they'll work their way back down, have some nice information here supporting or value proposition content, why you versus your competitor. Maybe put a testimonial here, and then that clear call to action. Sign up now, free demo, find out more. What we also tend to find is strategic placement of images and how to position those images and what folks tend to do as they're looking at that web page and how it helps assist conversion. So notice here, you have the kind of the baby here looking at you, and you tend to look at the face as opposed to the actual information here and the call to action down here. Whereas notice what happens when you strategically switch it, and baby's looking at the information, so you should look at the information. And when you look at the difference in terms of where focus is placed, a simple placement of an image and pointing to where you want that individual's eye to go really helps with conversion. And in this particular campaign, they've been doing some A/B testing for a long time to track this and figure out what helped assist conversions. But again, a strategic placement of images, sometimes arrows help. Have a long arrow pointing to the find out more, or download your free widget or whatever it is. But again, just a simple layout of images can have a big impact on conversion. Yeah, so people tend to follow the eye path where the subject of the graphic is looking. So have some fun with your A/B testing that you're doing out there. And again, another example here, using images as a pointer to your call to action. So this would be, in my opinion, I think this would be underperforming if the individual is looking at us as opposed to not focusing on the value proposition here and the apply now. And same thing here with the shop now. Looking at the call to action. So you can have some fun with your testing out there, but make sure it's strategic. Make sure you don't introduce too many variables. Otherwise, you'll have a difficult time determining with a certain confidence interval which version converts better. So again, usability best practices: assign visual priority. Size and position should be relative to the importance of the object. And then we looked at a good example there. Consider the visitor's eye path. We looked at some examples on where people's focus based on that eye tracking study. And provide a clear call to action. And again, if it's not clear within 3 seconds or less what you want me to do, it's probably not clear to your end users as well. And you might want to do some A/B testing on some of those call to actions, whether it be sign up today or download our newsletter or find out more. Each one of those conveys a different action item to that end user. But you want to clearly announce what you want that user to do, especially as they find you on non-branded keywords or non-branded traffic. Never heard of you before. They found you on financial software, for instance. So you got to be as clear as day what you want them to do. So what we find is you want to focus on the call to action from a user's perspective. So is your primary objective clearly stated on your homepage? And these are actually good questions to send to whoever's doing your landing pages right now, or whoever's in charge of your search marketing strategy. Do users have a reasonable expectation of what they'll receive? So in other words, having submit versus qualify for a free demo. very different calls to action. And oftentimes, when you type in submit, it's like, well, what am I getting? Whereas if it's qualify for a free demo, right away you're telling, hey, not everyone who clicks on this button is qualified. Therefore, there's going to be a qualification process, and expect that. So you'll probably get a higher quality from that point, as opposed to simply submit, where everyone's like, oh, I want the free demo, and I'm kind of a liquor store in the corner, and and I'm looking for some type of financial software, but I can't afford you. So clear calls to action, set up expectations through those buttons. And is your value proposition communicated to visitors? And let's define value proposition as why you versus your competitors. What makes you different? What makes you stand out? And as clear as those bullet points can be, and I would put them in a bullet point fashion, not a paragraph on that landing page. Top 3 reasons why you versus your competition. That should be conveyed to those visitors, because they've never heard of your brand before. They're probably finding you on a non-branded keyword, and ultimately, as trying to rank better organically, that's what you want to do. And then, is your call to action emphasized by contrasting color? So, we looked at that one example where the call to action was actually in the top navigation, and it was an equally weighted option with 4 other options that you can do. And the tendency when you provide equally weighted options is not to do any of them. So separate that call to action, put clear as day. You might want to have some fun with the color, do some testing. What we find is using active language also helps conversion, and oftentimes it's not enough to simply, get a free demo. I'm thinking of one campaign where we ran, qualify for a free demo for 6 months, and then we changed the call to action to, get the free pocket guide, and that ended up increasing conversion 120%. And the pocket guide in this case was, a $15 tchotchke. So it wasn't, it wasn't, an iPod or an iPad, but it was something to sweeten the deal to help increase conversion. Here, looking at Barack Obama, and you get a free T-shirt with a donation of $30 or more, and I bet you, and I know that helped increase conversion as opposed to simply getting a Donate Now button. So oftentimes you might want to consider sweetening the deal and test it out. We have a few things that we're testing out. We're testing out the Amazon gift card, and believe it or not, that's led to an increase in conversion and people signing up for our site analysis. But that's not the end goal. Each month we have something that we're trying a little bit differently in order to try to increase conversion. And what we say when we talk to marketers is you should have some bullets that you fire every quarter. Maybe 1 or 2 bullets. 3 at most, but test them and see which ones work well. And if one of those bullets happens to hit the mark, then you turn that into a bigger initiative. But you should always, every quarter, have something up your sleeve where you're trying new things in order to increase your conversion rates. So here's an example of too many things on a web page. And what is it that you want me to do? Let's say I typed in window blinds and I reached this page right here. It is, there's, match the tax, there's no payments, no interest, there's and here we see this all too often. The contact us that's, kind of hidden within the actual text, turn that into a button, and I might want to remove some of these other items, make it, 1 to 2 calls to action, 2 at most on each page. When I look at this, there's so many things that I can do that, again, the tendency is not to do any of them because they're all equally weighted. And if you don't tell me what to do in 3 seconds or less, you've lost me, especially as I found this individual on a non-branded keyword like, windows blinds or something like that. I never heard of their brand name before. So wrapping it all up here, so you want to assign visual priority, again, consider the iPath, provide a clear call to action, and make steps clear. Sometimes providing simple breadcrumb navigation, especially if you have, 5, 6, 7 layers deep within your website, which you shouldn't, by the way, but if you do, clear, where am I at? Breadcrumb navigation is often a good way to let folks where they're at within that funnel on the website. And forms should be concise, simple, clear. There's actually, we'll take a look at some studies that HubSpot came out with that said, based on the number of fields, this is what they tended to see in the way of it, either increasing conversion or decreasing. But let's go ahead and take a quick look at Mint.com. And I love Mint.com for a few reasons. But first and foremost, I love how they do their forms. It's very clear. It's simple. Why you'll love a simple bullet point format. I know what they want me to do. They want me to sign up right here. There's a few, form is minimal. The automatic cursor placement, where you're already halfway started, you might as well continue to go on. There's trust signals. And actually, this is a funny one. There was one campaign that we ran where we simply put a lock on it. Didn't say it was, verisign or verified or whatever. Just simply put a lock in it. It increased conversion by 25%. Simple things like that help. Gives the my information is safe. And often what we do, we'll go ahead and almost overqualify. We will never ever share your information. Almost overqualifying that your information is safe with us. So simple things like trust signals like putting the locks help increase conversion. And then that reassurance. They don't have a paragraph down here. They know that, hey, I have a few seconds to get this individual at best. So I want to keep it simple and concise. And then clear wording on the submission button. So it's not submit, it's sign up. I'm signing up for something, and I bet you they probably test different variations instead of just sign up. Find out more, or contact us, for more information. So here is some of the number of fields or number of text areas. So conversion rate is on the left-hand side here. And this was a study done by HubSpot. So conversion rate on the left-hand side here, number of text areas on this axis below. So when they went from one text area, they had a higher conversion rate, upwards of 20%. But as they get further and further down here to 4 text areas, it went down to 10%. Similarly, with the conversion rate by number of select boxes, 16% conversion rate, upwards of 16% by simply having 1 select boxes, versus it dipped down to 14% as they added more select boxes. And here's one of my favorite ones right here. It's actually pretty cool what happens. Notice the increase in here. So this is conversion rate by number of form fields. So name, email, zip code, job title, area of interest. What they found, though, was with simply having 1 field, so maybe just email, their conversion rate was actually lower than when they added 3, which is upwards of 25%. So an increase in actual conversion rate, but as that 3rd one, and you add a 4th one, and a 5th one, and a 6th, and a 7th, and a 10th, that conversion rate starts to go downward. And that makes sense. If you see a huge form, you're like, oh boy. And maybe when you look at that form and it goes below the fold, you're like, oh, how long does this go on for? I might have been interested before, but not anymore. And I've gone to bat. I work with a lot of marketing folks, and they say, you know what, Mike, I try to limit the fields, but gosh darn it, my VP of marketing and inside sales folks, they say they need 12 fields in order to qualify individuals. I say, do you realize that you're making it harder? They're making your job harder to get people in the door. So by showing them quantitative studies like this, this is how you get their buy-in. Tough luck. I know that they need 12 fields in order to qualify individuals. But as you add more, you decrease the number of people that come in that come in through the front door. So try to find a happy medium in between. But this study clearly says that for 3 fields is kind of the best number of fields. So name, first name, last name, maybe email, for instance. And then as you add more, people start to get less and less jazzed about filling out that form. So again, we'll have the slides available afterwards. If you're running into that battle right now and your inside sales folks need 30 fields because that's the information they need in order to put them in the CRM system and nurture them, well, show them that there's a trade-off. And you might want to measure, and find that happy medium in between place. So this is a best practice, a landing page that we developed. In this case, this has a little bit more text than I would have liked otherwise, but again, it follows that best practice of reading that Z, right? So from value proposition to why you versus your competitors, to keeping those fields simple, and what am I going to get when I get this? And it just so happens that we've helped other people just in your shoes, with that testimonial right next to the call to action. Oh, we're not just a bunch of jokers. We work with some well-known name brands down here. Okay, and what I might also do is and this gives me a good idea, I'll probably do a trust signal down here by putting a lock or something like that, or maybe a VeriSign. Hey, your information is absolutely safe with us. You will never ever spam you or share your information. And actually, yeah, we do it down here. So we never, and notice, I didn't notice it at first. So you might want to put it even closer to that call to action button. So, trust signals, what am I going to get? Keep the form simple. Why you versus your competitor? Active use of white space. So a good example of things you might want to do to your landing pages. All right, so that was a lot of material to review. So let's go ahead and do a recap here. So ask yourself, these are good questions to ask. Is your call to action obvious? Is your value proposition clearly stated? Has your primary objective established visual priority? And have you optimized your lead forms? And we've looked at some best practices and considering things that you might want to change up. And again, the simplest thing that you can do is look at your web page and is it clear within 3 seconds or less what you want that individual to do? And if it's not, you might want to try a variation that simplifies the process. So let's look at let's look at some testing strategies here, and we'll keep this quick. There's a lot of platforms out there that to do A/B testing. We use Google Website Optimizer. It's free. It's simple to use, and simply kind of the most widely used one out there. Yeah, there's some paid platforms out there, but we like Google Website Optimizer. So what you might want to consider doing is keeping your testing simple. There's a couple types of tests that you can do. There's something called A/B testing, so simple, 50-50 split. So half the traffic you send to one call to action, and the other 50% you send to another. So that's one way to do testing. Another way to do testing is multivariate. So multiple variables. You're changing the header, the call to action, the button color. But be careful when you do your test and how you set it up. Oftentimes what we find is volume is the biggest issue that we come across. If you don't have sufficient volume, then there's no way you'll be able to predict a winner with a 95% confidence interval. And it might make sense to lower that confidence interval to maybe 80% or something like that. But again, keep your testing simplified. In this case, we're looking at one where we tested a simple green versus yellow button, so simple A/B test. And we're able to look at, chance to beat the original. Well, turned out the green button, a 90% chance to beat the original. So, simple A/B testing. Unless your website gets hundreds and thousands of visitors a day, then you can be a little bit more creative and do some multivariate testing. I promised some of those advanced people out there some advanced techniques that you can use when you're optimizing your website. And I think what I'll do is, for you B2B marketers out there, the lead gen campaigns that you're running, we'll see if we can find something that piques your interest. So this is some information that you might want to be able to, as a marketer, you might want to know what keywords how many leads they drive, how many opportunities were generated from a keyword level, how many deals occurred, and what was the deal value. So this is kind of the holy grail of getting that information as a marketer. And if I'm running this search marketing campaign right now, I look at this a little differently. And I look at revenue, and I say, okay, I generated $113,746 off of these keywords. Which one drove the most revenue? But further, where do I rank for these keywords? So let's hone in on this one right here, Projects Management Tool. I know that I got 73 leads, and I know that there were 32 opportunities, and I know I got 10 deals from it. And I know that I generated $16,874 from it, and I have all my percentages down here. So what I might do is run ranking on these keywords and say, for this keyword, I rank in the 4th position on Google, let's say hypothetically. I now have greater incentive to get this keyword ranking higher, knowing that it's generated more revenue than all the other keywords, and I don't rank above the fold within the first 3 positions on Google. So now as a search marketer or the in-house guy or whoever's optimizing your campaign, this is critical information to have. Now I have incentive to get certain keywords ranking higher. Now I'm not just simply focused on ranking. And that's actually a good point. If you're with an agency right now and they just simply send you a ranking report, I'd want to ask them, how can we take this a step further? How can I get down to a keyword level and how much revenue it's generated? So let's go ahead and answer that question right now. And I'm going to actually jump off the webinar. And I'm going to jump and show you how to make that connection for you B2B marketers out there. So lead gen is your end goal, and you probably have a CRM system. So I'm going to walk through the steps on how to make that connection, which is the keyword search, tying it to the CRM, and then being able to run a report like the one we just looked at. So let's do a search for Bay Area SEO. And we're trying to optimize our website for a keyword like Bay Area SEO. We are a search engine optimization company, and that's a keyword that we want to rank for. It's a non-branded keyword, and there we are right there. So I'm driving people to the website. So I click on our homepage, and what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get people to sign up for our free site analysis. So I go into sign up now. Now here's the critical part to tying that traffic, tying that source, people doing a search for that keyword and tying it to the CRM system. So here's the hook. This form is generated from your CRM system. So in this case, we use Salesforce. Salesforce has a web-to-lead form capabilities. We generate this through Salesforce. And notice we have our simple 3 fields, the best practice to kind of increase that conversion. But I'm also doing another thing. I have some custom code that I have on this web page that pulls in this keyword and attaches it via hidden field to this record. So because I do that, I also know that I came in via organic, and I know that I came from Google, and I know that I came from Bay Area SEO. And this is then attached to that lead record, and I have rules set up within my CRM system that then assigns it to the proper individual, but that information, that keyword, that source, stays with the contact information throughout the sales cycle. So let's go ahead and actually, I'm going to do a first here, and I'm going to log into my Salesforce live, and I'm going to show you where this information goes within the CRM. So if you don't have Salesforce and you have Sugar CRM, or you're on Oracle, or you have some other different CRM platform, we have worked with that capability, but it's not as intuitive as it is with Salesforce. So I'm going to go ahead and log right into my Salesforce account and log in and see if I can find one where we have this information. Which one did this hold? Okay, so let's find one where we're pulling in that information. So again, I did a non-branded search. a keyword, and I'm now going into Salesforce, my CRM, and I want to show where that information then ends up. There it is. So there's a few things I'm doing. I'm pulling in that information. I know it came from organic, and I know it came from that keyword Bay Area SEO. By doing this, let's say I have a 12-month sales cycle or a 24-month. This stays with the opportunity record all the way to close one deal. At the end of the funnel, I can then put my guaranteed revenue and tie it to that keyword level. That's the hook. That's how you get people to look at what keywords make sense and tie it back to revenue from an organic standpoint. All right, I'll go ahead and leave that one as is. Let's go ahead and jump back on the website. So for any folks who have Salesforce or have a CRM and want that capability, feel free to reach out to us after the webinar. Okay, so let's get back to the webinar. So measuring success. You want to have goal tracking in place. So if you don't even have goal tracking in place, and what I just went over right there and before, that was for some of you advanced folks out there who have been doing this for a while, or even if you're not advanced, that looks like something that may be beneficial. You know, it's something that not everyone's doing. As I said, I'm in a unique position. I talk to a lot of folks, and I would say for every 100 companies we talk to, maybe 5% is taking it to that degree. So again, there's a crawl, walk, and run scenario. In this case, a lot of folks, they don't even have goal tracking in place. And the benefits of having goal tracking, and you might use Site Catalyst or Core Metrics, or in this case, we prefer Google Analytics. By having goal tracking in place, at least you can tell what keywords lead to conversion. You might not be tracking it all the way to close one deal like we just saw. Rather, you're just simply saying, okay, I just want to know what keywords are leading to form fill-outs. We'll eventually get there to kind of close that loop. But right now, let's just track goals. And the benefits of that is you're able to look at where people drop out in the funnel. So within Google Analytics, you can set up goal tracking, and there's something called funnel visualization. So say there's 4 steps in your conversion path, for instance. Maybe it would be helpful to know that in those 4 steps, maybe the third one is the area where you're losing a lot of people and they're dropping out of the funnel. So it stands to reason, hey, I might want to make it easier for folks to continue down that conversion funnel. And you wouldn't know that had you not had goal tracking in place. So setting up goals in Google Analytics is one of the first steps. And the crawl, walk, and run scenario, I would put it firmly into the walking. You're starting to track keyword by conversion, and you're starting to make some marketing decisions based off of actual conversions here. A next step might be, so particularly for you B2B guys out there, say you're trying to get free research signups, so having goals set up and you're able to tell what keywords lead to that conversion type. So again, if I'm running this campaign, I want to know where do these keywords rank, and I want to know where this one, or actually this one, ranks, knowing that it has almost a 4% conversion rate, and I got 127 visitors. If I'm not ranking within the first 3 positions on Google, because we saw the kind of the click-through rates, I now have greater incentive to get this one ranking, and let's say it's ranking in the 6th position. I now have incentive to get this one ranking higher because it leads to a higher conversion rate to my free research sign up. So again, if you're not, if you're doing this in-house or you're working with an agency and you're not looking at conversion by keyword type, that's a problem, because you're able to have this level of insight and actionable steps based off of conversion. There's something called reverse goal paths within Google Analytics. So say you don't have that standard. Here are the first 4 steps that people need to take in order to convert. What you can do is look at what are the most common paths people take, and you can look within Google Analytics and run those reports. So if you find a path that you might not have anticipated before and they go through these 4 steps before they convert, looking at the reverse goal path would be insightful, and you might want to make it easier for them to go down that path, because folks are kind of doing that anyways. E-commerce tracking. So for you B2C marketers out there, if you don't have e-commerce tracking in place, how do you know what keywords to get ranking better because you don't know which ones are driving revenue? And I can't tell you how many folks I talk to that, you know, one guy's I just got off the phone before jumping on this webinar. They're using ThomasNet right now as their shopping cart, you know, kind of an old school solution, and they don't have e-commerce capabilities in place. So, and when I ask them what are the top 4 keywords that are driving revenue for you, they have no idea. So unless you have, if you're an e-commerce marketer out there and you don't have visibility at the keyword level, it's impossible to tell you here are the 5 keywords that I would go after because it's going to drive revenue. So this is an iterative process. You know, a big misnomer that we come across in talking to folks is, yeah, it's a set it and forget it model, right? I optimized my website last year. I don't know why Google hasn't found me more relevant. I don't know what happened. Google rolls out literally hundreds of minor algorithm changes on a yearly basis. There's one that recently came out called Penguin, I believe it was. Before that was Panda. And guess what? It's going to be something else next month. But if you optimize your website one time last year, that was like 200 algorithm changes ago. So who knows what was best practice then versus now? And there's a slew of things that that we find more relevant, like, you know, social signals. You know, Google and Bing have come out and said we look at social signals as organic ranking influencers, and the more people that mention you via Facebook and Twitter that have something to do with your industry and have a lot of followers or a lot of likes, that's a signal that we look at and determine whether or not we should give you better ranking organically for a non-branded keyword, for instance. And had you asked me that same question the same time last year, I would have said absolutely not. They have what we call no follow tags, and it doesn't pass any value. But now they're starting to take that into account. So the game is constantly changing. So having someone who stays up on this on a daily basis is critical, because search marketing can be such a driver of revenue. So evaluate A/B testing or multivariate testing. If you're not doing any testing right now, how do you know what's going to work better? And rely on analytics to guide decision making. And we talked about some advanced tactics and how for you B2B marketers out there who, you know, we looked at that CRM connection, you know, looking at what keywords drive revenue. That might be something that a bullet that you fire this next quarter, and in determining whether or not, hey, this whole search marketing thing, is it a fad or is it something that's going to change our business? So some key takeaways. You know, primary, major, and minor objectives must be defined. Oftentimes it comes in the way of a short, mid, and long-term goals. So define what winning looks like for you guys, and oftentimes one of the first steps that we do when we help clients that come to us is we sit down and we say, what does winning look like? And they say, I don't know, you're the expert, that's why I hired you. And I say, okay, well, let's look at what's the search volume, where you currently rank, and would winning be you know, 50% increase in traffic in 6 months? And we walk through the steps and we help define goals. So that's oftentimes one of the first steps is define what winning looks like and then put in some metrics to measure them month over month. Usability can be improved by emphasizing your call to action, and we looked at some best practices surrounding that, and you know, optimizing your site's layout. And then set up goals in Google Analytics and measure user behavior. And you know, we defined a crawling, walking, and running scenario when doing search marketing. And if you're not even tracking goals within analytics, you know, you might want to get started. You know, let the metrics drive your decisions. You know, where to place call to actions and what keywords to go after. All right, so with that, we'll go ahead and wrap up this webinar. Again, if you want to have that SEO assessment where we look at your website, your keywords, your competitors, you can qualify for our $50 Amazon gift card. Feel free to reach out to SEO@webmarketing123.com or bit.ly/WM123SEO. And again, as Evan said at the front of the webinar, we're going to be holding our webinars every Tuesday now, every Tuesday. So No longer Wednesday. So we'll send out invites to all you folks. So again, if you want to take a look at kind of ranking on Google, and oftentimes what we find is folks don't know where to start. And the way we've combated that, and the way to get internal buy-in, is we help folks define what is it costing your company to not rank well on Google. And there's a set sort of metrics that we go through in order to define what is that cost. So if that's something that you'd want to be interested in, feel free to reach out to us, and we'll help set that up. And with that, we'll go ahead and wrap up this webinar. I want to thank Evan for putting together this webinar. Good job, buddy. I thank everyone for your trust, and we look forward to seeing you on the next webinar next Tuesday. That's next Tuesday. All right, everyone. Thanks a lot. Bye.